Hello, and welcome to That Service Dog Show. We will be discussing something that I have no experience with personally. So I brought on a guest to help with it to then in turn help those of you watching. This involves the matter of getting accommodations set up for school accommodations to take a service dog to school with a student. My guest Kelly has such experience and has been in this arena for many years, even creating videos for her various school systems over the years to help educate those in the need for the know. Kelly, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kelly Hart. I am the Heart of Fairbluff, live in Fairbluff, North Carolina, and I'm here to answer any questions and to help you get if you need a dog in school, if you need your service dog to task for you while you're in school, you should be able to have that. And it should be a smooth, easy transition for the student and for the parents if the student is underage slightly.
Very good. So, trying to get school accommodations can feel very overwhelming for parents and the students. My son is on the spectrum and has a few issues, but his accommodations came through an individualized education plan or an IEP. But that's not what's needed for a service dog, correct? A 504 is needed. Could you explain the difference between those two forms of granting accommodations for school?
Absolutely. So, in order to have an IEP at school, um, there is a very the disability criteria for learning. It is very specific in order to have an IEP in your child's program. However, a 504 is any disability. Um, for instance, you can't get an IEP for ADHD unless it affects other portions of your life, such as needing speech and OT. It has to have other things with it. But if the only thing that you are disabled by is your ADHD and there are tasks that a service dog could do for you, then you could ask for a 504. And the 504 would be the accommodations that you need. Now, not saying to ask permission, you do not need permission to bring a service dog to school. You are simply creating a document to help you manage better with having a service dog in schools. There are stress. It can be stressful having an animal in school. There are a lot of stresses with that, and you should want to make this transition as smooth as possible. So you can ask for an A504.
Very good. Stressful on both the dog and the handler.
Very much so. Very much so. And as a handler, um, some of the things that my own children have run into is petting all of their friends. It's not even all the kids in the other classes. All of their friends want to pet their dogs. They want to pet the dogs. They want to love the dogs. They want to distract the dogs. They want their dogs. They don't understand that the dogs are there to do a job. And you want to make sure that the school too is going to back up that student who might not feel comfortable telling their friends, hey, I need you to stop that. They might not be able to have that voice. So you should be able to work with your school system to make sure that your child has that voice. They should be backing up the
Absolutely.
child.
Especially since too much attention like that could kind of reverse the training, couldn't it?
It
In
can
some dogs,
in some dogs it can.
as far
um
as being neutral around other people.
they will want to respond a little bit more often to the stimuli of everyone, because it's not usually just one child that's coming up and saying, hey, can I pet your dog? Normally you've got like 3 or 4 or 5 students that want to come up and just roughhouse with a dog like they were out playing in the backyard.
Just like whenever it comes to adult handlers, we see that a lot when we're out shopping. People may think they're the only person who's asked to pet our dog, but they may have been the 28th person in the last 2 hours.
That's true. That's true. I try to be fun with people in the store. A lot of times and always be respectful. I am always respectful with people in the store, but there have been times that I've gotten a little sassy and I've actually asked them if this actually happened in Ocean City. I asked this young man was with his family. He's in his 20s. He's kid to me because I'm old. All right, I'm 51, so I'm old. And I this maybe 19 to 23-year-old asked me if he could pet the dog, and I was just very uncomfortable. And so I asked him if I could pet him, and he said yes. And he made me laugh. So I let him pet the dog. I burst out laughing. It was hilarious. It was hilarious. But yes, the drive-by petting, I have more problems in stores with drive-by petting than at least respectfully asking.
Yeah. Now, whenever it comes to the 504, is there a particular individual that people need to contact in their school system to get that whole process started?
If you would like a 504 for your child, then you should you should email, because you're going to want to create that paper trail. Always have a paper trail. And you're going to want to email the principal. I would also email the superintendent and the Exceptional Children's Program Director.
Awesome. Because I'm sure that's the biggest part, is so many people don't know, where do I start? So that lets a lot of people know that first step, which is always the hardest.
It is. A lot of people think that they have to ask permission from the school, and there is a lot of miscommunication that you have to ask permission, unless
Even from
you
the
are
schools.
even from the schools. The schools themselves think that the students have to ask permission, and that has just is not true, and that is federally protected now. When the school became a place of public access, because of a Supreme Court hearing, Napoleon versus Fry versus Napoleon. Sorry. But that is a place of public accommodation. And as a place of public accommodation, like any other place of public accommodation, a hotel, a restaurant, a store, they can only ask the two questions: is service dog, and what work or task do they do to mitigate your disability?
So you're also a trainer.
I am.
So yes, of course you know. So here are some questions that are more steered towards that aspect of your life. Let's dispel some of the myths that we all see online when people will search service dogs and how to get started, and even in some of the service dog groups, because sadly there's a lot of misinformation in service dog groups themselves. First off, there are no registrations that the school can ask for, because there are none, correct?
Correct. There is no federally recognized registration. In North Carolina, there is a voluntary registration only, and that is for a fully trained dog. There's a little quirk to that. Did you want me to mention?
Absolutely.
Now,
Let's let everything
let's
out.
let everything out. So in order to train, there is a law on the books that does state that you have to have the service dog tag that you get from the Department of Health and Human Services in order to be out in public. That it has to be displayed while out in public. Federally, you don't have to do that, but federally, again, is for a fully trained dog. So in the state of North Carolina, you can train your dog out in public. However, in order to train out in public, you not only have to have that tag and display it, you also have to have your service dog in training. It has to be marked in training.
Very interesting, because I'm pretty sure that most people here in the state, they only know that they have to display that they're still in training, not about the tag.
Right. And it is actually difficult to get the tag. They do not like getting back to you when it comes to training.
They do not. Whenever I got my tags for General, my first service dog, I waited several months, and then I called, and they're like, this was the end of March, and they're like, send it again, but this time send it registered mailed, because we literally just got something today. Again, this was like the last week of March. They said it was postmarked December 7th. So, yeah, so I would definitely recommend anytime someone's trying to deal with the office, trying to get these registration tags for the state of North Carolina or any state, because I'm sure there'll be people who are not from this state who are watching. Again, that helps with the paper trail that you were mentioning for the 504 too. Every time you do anything with your service dog, you want the paper trail, and that includes spend the extra $5 to send it in.
Yes, it's worth
Register
it.
them.
It's worth it.
It's well worth it.
And since we were talking about training, speaking of paperwork,
Mm-hmm.
please, training logs can be so important. There may be, you could end up, somebody could, well, let's say, I think it's a class E felony if somebody deliberately hurts your service dog. I think it's a
Mm-hmm.
class E. It's like an E or
If
an
they're
F
if they're
felony.
currently working, I believe is the
Yeah,
way, because my service dog has been hurt, but he was considered off duty. So it was handled differently than if I had been out and about and he was working. So
right. So that paper trail is something that you want to prove that you have a service dog. You don't have an ASA. Here's your training logs to back you up. Video logs also work. Just make sure that you do some sort of logging your training hours in.
yeah, absolutely. Because again, none of us plan to end up in court.
No, no,
But you never know. And it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
correct. Correct. I fully believe that. Yeah.
So, as a trainer, something that I see a lot in a lot of the groups, um, the misconception that any dog can be a service dog, since many, even in the community, think it's as simple as just finding a puppy that they find is cute or is smart or has chosen them, or go and find a rescue at your local pound. So, from a trainer's perspective, what do you say about that?
Okay, so legally, I will address the legal.
Mhm.
There is nothing in the ADA that says that any service dog has to be a specific breed. However, you want the deck stacked in your favor.
Yes.
So the best way to have that deck stacked in your favor is to, and this is if you are not going to use program. If you have found the perfect program that you're on the waiting list for, that is great. But if you're looking for yourself to go into a hybrid program or a private trainer sessions, then you want the deck stacked for you. And in order to do that, you really need to choose the proper breed. Now, I do support the Fab Four. I do. That's Lab, Golden Collie, and Poodle. Standard Poodle, but well, any poodle, but Standard Poodle is more often recognized. Um, but and I say this when you are going to recommend, it is so important to know the background, know what they are looking for. But if you've had somebody that has had pet German Shepherds for 15 years and they're not looking for psych tasks, there may be a chance that they could find a German Shepherd. So you need to really know what you want in a dog, what tasks you need in a dog, and choose the dog that fits you best. And then start
That has the
looking.
correct temperament as well.
Yeah, you got to look for a breeder that breeds to breed standard. You want breed standard breeds, and they should be doing a temperament test. And this is not a FOLID test. They should be doing a the correct temperament test. At 7 weeks before, and never, never let anyone choose. You choose the dog. They should be choosing the dog for you. Excuse me. Now I can't speak. The breeder should be knowledgeable enough to work with the behaviors that you have hired to test this litter, and they should help you. They should choose the dog for you. So they're going to use what the behaviorist has said, and then they're going to say, well, this is this dog, and this is this dog, and this one tested higher. but you might want this dog, this puppy, because you plan on doing X, Y, and Z sports with it as well, and that might be a better choice for you. So if there's like a 1 or a 2 point difference in their scoring, then it might be, you might have a little leeway, but you definitely want to have a breeder that you trust and do the process. Get that behaviorist in there. Get that litter tested. If people will not let you test that litter, you do not want to have them as your breeder.
Absolutely. And that temperament, I think, really does get discounted way too often. My breeder for my current service dog in training, she is not a Fab 4, but I spent 4.5 years looking for the correct breeder. And so she is from service dog stock, as she is a boxer. And one thing that the breeder was not in the service dog community, though her dog was a service dog. You know, you can't fault anybody for not wanting to be part of the community, because at times, you know, you're like, you're probably making a better choice than I have at this point, as far as that goes. But after a while, she contacted me because we became friends, and she had watched the fact that I had a service dog and different things that my first service dog was doing for me. And she messaged me saying, "Let me ask you something. Do boxers not usually make good service dogs? Because I see them all the time at shows, but I started getting into some of the groups, and I don't see any in any of the groups." And I'm like, "Well, let me tell you something. The dogs you're seeing at the shows are well bred and bred for temperament. The ones that most people get outside of that world that you're in are usually your Craigslist and Facebook puppies. And they're going to have a lot less chance. Just like, you know, if you were to take a Craigslist puppy to try to go win best of breed, you know, it's not going to work out most likely."
Yeah,
So
that
she's
won't work
like,
for
you
you.
know, that makes sense, because, you know, they are bred to work around dogs, and for random people just grabbing them, you know, for the judging to be like, "Let me check to make sure this feels good," and you know, and that this gate's right. And so yeah, they're I like to think that, you know, and I know that you work in that area too, that I think that showing translates very well whenever it comes to temperament for the service dog work.
Yes. And then there's also more than confirmation. Now Piper has started in we go Piper has been started at the Fayetteville Kennel Club. And then we had life happen. So Piper needs to go back to the Fayetteville Kennel Club. We do obedience. So your AKC obedience shows, again, you're going to have the judges on the dogs. They have to feel the dogs. They've got, you know, they're right around there. So you should really do a confirmation or a performance dog.
Mm-hmm.
Look for a breeder who also does, if they're not going to do confirmation, they're going to do some type of performance. If that makes sense.
So that you'll be able to see what kind of dog to expect out of their litter. Right.
Yes. Yes.
And if they don't want to show you past litters and stuff like that, that's usually a big red flag. Right.
If they don't want to show you their litters, you don't want to deal with that breeder.
So what are some common missteps that you've seen when individuals first start trying to take their dogs to school with them, or training period?
As far as to, well, I could do from a training period to go to school. I believe in informing the school. You're not asking for permission, but I do believe in informing the school that you will be bringing a service dog to school. And as far as my process, my dogs start off as puppies. They're 6 months old. They're under the desk at these IEP meetings or 504 meetings. 504 meetings, by the way, are more often than an IEP meeting. So I think education within the school from a service world perspective comes with being open in what you plan on doing. Then maybe they have a little bit more, they want to research a little bit more rather than you just coming in there and basically demanding X, Y, and Z. Now, legally, you're allowed to go in there and demand X, Y, and Z, but you want to have that relationship with your school. You don't want to make the school your enemy, ever. You don't want the school to be your enemy. You want to try to do your absolute best to have the school on your side. So misconceptions for a training, people doing too much too soon.
Because we all feel like we need our dog now.
Yeah, you want them to be, they need time to be a puppy. So when you get a puppy, if you're getting an 8-week-old or a 12-week, depending, that socialization period, it ends at 12 weeks. So those periods between, you're going to want a breeder that is doing early neural stimulation. They're going to do puppy culture. They're going to get the actual, from 8 to 12 weeks, you want that socialization period. After the socialization period, they should be doing their potty training and their crate training is ongoing. But you really want to just work on very little basics and then let them be a puppy. Let them be a goofy puppy. That doesn't mean that you're going to let them run wild and they're never going to have to sit for a treat or go down. You're just going to make it more fun. It's less formalized at this point. So you're going to do way too much too early if you're not giving a dog a chance. If you're not giving a puppy a chance just to be a puppy and just to be a dog.
Yeah, I cannot remember exactly the study, but I've actually seen a study where it followed service dogs that were one group was trained very hard from the moment they came home for the first 2 years, and then the other group where they pretty much did nothing but basic obedience, house manners, stuff like that, and socializing for the first year, and then they started service dog training. And by 3 years of age, they learned that neither group was like further along, but there were more washouts and burnouts in the first group that started that heavy training from day one.
Yeah, it turns a dog off. They don't want to work for you. If it's not pleasing, I mean, dogs want to please you.
Yeah.
All right. There are some breeds that dogs they don't want to please you. They just want to be on their own out in the herd, watching over be their livestock guardians and watching over their herds. But that doesn't mean that they don't want to please you sometimes. But dogs, they want to please you. They want to be shown things in a manner that is better for them. I'm a balanced trainer, so I am not purely positive, but even being a balanced trainer is still mostly purely positive. It's just that there's an added aspect of
Training the dog in front
consequences. Of you. Yeah. But yeah, I just now I'm totally off from, by the way. There you go. I am totally off from what you originally asked. But
as far as the mistakes and stuff like that. But we've kind of covered it and everything like that. So how about this? At what point in the process would you recommend someone actually reaching out to a trainer?
Before you get a puppy. Before you get a puppy, you should have a trainer in mind. You should be talking to a trainers. You should be, you're basically doing some interviews. That doesn't mean you're going to go run and see every aspect of them there, but you want to know who they are. And if this is somebody that you're going to entrust to train properly, the thing that is watching out for you in whatever task they do, they're watching out for you. In some ways, they can have your life in your hand. If you're talking about an allergen, that's they would literally have your life in their hands. So you want to make sure that you find a trainer before you even get a puppy.
Not wait until they're 6 months old and be like, oh no, I don't know what's going on. Who can help me fix what I've done wrong with my dog?
Well, not
you'll see the people they'll freak out once the dog hits 6 months, and I hear that's usually whenever people actually start reaching out to trainers, whenever they think, oh, I'll be able to do it myself, and then they're like, maybe I can't.
Well, also, one of the things, if you have never had a puppy, if you have never had a puppy,
Or been a
you
while.
need, yeah, you really need some. You need to maybe do some volunteer work and or foster. You could foster. Fostering is very good. And if somebody is bent on getting a dog from the shelter, you can reach out to fosters, offer to foster, and if you foster a dog for a couple months, then we would call it a failed foster and see you can at least get some idea of a temperament rather than just going over viewing a dog in 30 minutes bringing it home. Again, I do not recommend shelter dogs. It doesn't mean I have two mutts. I love my mutts. My first service dog was a mutt. I loved him. He was a perfect at-home service dog because he did not have the temperament. He washed for
The
reactivity.
General was the 100th shelter dog I had temperament tested.
Wow. Yep. It takes a lot.
Yeah,
It takes a
and
lot to
people
find that
don't
one.
believe that it is a rare temperament, and I've heard it's as low as 1 to 3%.
Yes.
And bad training too fast can ruin that 1 to 3%.
I also think that because some programs actually use shelter dogs, it gets a little confusing. But what they don't understand in the general, somebody's just researching and they have decided this route, is that they have the resources to wash those dogs before placement and put it in a pet home.
Yes, I really believe some of these Netflix shows that do that, it really does harm the perception because you're not seeing the 50 dogs that they're not showing on screen that they recorded and they followed, but yeah, they didn't make it versus
Right.
this one that might make it by the time that it's on screen.
Mm-hmm.
So
Even some of the program dogs, even some of the programs that have been around for a while, Dogs for the Blind, these not
yeah,
every
I
dogs
think
make
I've
it.
heard that they have even as high of a washout rate as 70% at times.
Yeah.
So if
So
dogs that are bred for this work has that high of a risk, you know, most of us who are owner training or training with the help of a trainer, we don't have the resources to just keep on going dog after dog after dog after dog. So like you said, we do need to stack the deck in our favor.
it's also not fair to the dog for unless you can suddenly afford to have 12 washouts at your house, it's not fair to a shelter dog to get it as your forever dog and in 6 months when it doesn't work out, rehome it. So
Absolutely. So on that note, what would you say whenever you hear, a potential client say, well, my dog is so smart, I know it won't take very long to train.
I am glad that your dog is so smart. There are a lot of smart dogs. However, it takes about 18 months to 2 years to train a dog, depending on where you're at in your training. So you have like a 6-month-old, very smart dog, might have done some basics and started and was properly socialized. You still got another 18 months behind you. And it
Or
also
even the
depends on
handler may
breed.
not have good training mechanics down pat, so that can also extend that life.
It can not only extend, I mean, some breeds don't mature. Some of the giant breeds don't mature at, it's not like 2 years old is like this magic age. It's more like 18 months to 3 years, and with the
Mm-hmm.
2 year being a median. But you can it can take you a while. It could take you longer than 3 years. There are a lot of variables that could happen.
Yeah, both of my dogs I know are in that category of later maturity. General is 50% German Shepherd. So I did not even consider him being out of puppy brain until like 3.5 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alexandra is a boxer. They're known as being the Peter Pan breeds. They may never grow up. She's got a male that's in her line that's 12 years old that still gets out there and plays with the 1-year-olds. So So, but fortunately she does have that good on-off switch that we discussed before we came on. So there is that, but I think a lot of people don't really consider that whenever they are looking into usually it's their heart breed that they want and not the breed that would work best for the tasks that they need.
So for people that know me, people that actually know me from, I say from my previous life because I'm from New Hampshire. My heart dog is actually a German Shepherd. That is my love. I love how they move, how they are. I love their family. There is nothing about a German Shepherd that I don't love. My service dogs and the dogs that I have in my home are rough collies. And then the two
Because
huskies.
that's what you needed.
That's what I needed. I have to put aside what I want because I needed to have a service dog. I needed to stack the deck in my favor.
And that's the maturity that I think is missing in a great deal of the service dog community. It really is more of a, well, if this is the breed you want, we'll find a way to make it work.
And I'm sure that they could find an unscrupulous breeder that would sell them a puppy that they would be just perfect for service work.
Or they'll find that one anecdotal example of,
Yes.
this is a breed that doesn't typically work well, but I know this one person that it worked out okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get this puppy. If you're going to do it that way, you need to put in the work. Again, I know that my service dog in training is not that typical Fab4, but I put in the work. I put in the 4.5 years of looking for the breeder before I ever brought home a dog, made sure it came from service dog stock, and the temperament testing and reevaluations along the way. And I know that even now at 17 months old, she may not make it. And I have to be aware of that. But a lot of times you'll see, well, no, especially whenever it comes to younger handlers, they'll be like, well, you don't understand. My mom and dad have already told me that I can't get another dog. So this dog has to be my service dog.
Well, and unfortunately, those are also maybe some of the young handlers that you see on the news with the dogs that have snapped or bitten, or they're hiding underneath the chair, just not a good representation of having service dogs.
Or the dogs that may react in fear, but their handlers mistakenly believe that they're being protective.
And well,
even
there's
though
also,
service dogs are not allowed to be protective.
there's
FYI.
a whole misconception on what service dogs and the whole protection thing. I'm kind of glad that the ADA addressed that they, bite word, you can't have a bite.
Yeah, I wish that the Federal Register was as referenced as the ADA, where they actually went in to explain why they use certain language.
That's
Same
a good
for other laws for service dogs and stuff.
I honestly, I don't think that the federal government really knows kind of what to do with the community, especially as it grows exponentially.
And it's so divided. We have half the community that wants it to stay status quo, just make it where those that are running businesses, make them learn more. But then there's the other half that are like, well, that would be the ideal, but that's just not the world we're in. So we actually need more regulation of some kind. And then those two, they clash. And the government's like, I don't want to get involved. Y'all figure it out between yourselves.
That is so true. It is divided. It is so divided.
And good points do have good points, but
yeah, and it's and I can't see a way out of that because you can't please everybody.
So they're going to have to choose a side eventually, which side they're going to be on, and be like, look, this is the way things are. This is the way they're going to be. If you don't like it, either don't have a service dog and find another way to cope, or you're just going to be miserable for the rest of your life. Which, I can really actually see them saying something like that.
I I can't. Maybe in closed session, but yes.
Yeah. Well, they'll say it in better words, but that'll be the meaning behind the word. This is how it is, and if you don't like it, suck it. Oh. So at what point in the training do you believe that the dog should be considered going to school outside of those 504 meetings? Is it
Um,
something that should be done early in the dog's training, or should it be more
no,
towards the dog as the dog is matured?
it should be very close to the end. And even then, I would suggest going to school functions over going into the classroom. Um, and if as your parent, assuming that you're not in college, so if you're a young child and as a parent, you have made the decision with your child that you're going to go ahead and try a class and see how it goes, then you also need to be willing, pretty much don't leave campus because, do that one period class. Uh, what is like an hour? I'm trying to think. Is it about an
So
hour?
don't expect, even for college, don't expect the dog to make it all day long.
Oh, yeah. No, 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 no. I would not, until the dog was finished training, I would not do it a day long, all day long.
I've actually heard of some, I guess you would call them horror stories, whenever I first joined the community, of some people who did have their dogs in high school. And going to date myself. I'm sure the people who are younger now don't remember this app, but do you recall the mosquito app? An
Okay, I
app on
do.
your phone that you could set it was like a ringtone that people who were like over the age of 35 could not hear, because as you age, you lose certain parts of your hearing, kind of deal.
I did not hear anything about that.
Oh, yes. And now I'm sure there's been something new that's replaced this, but because everything's always, getting renewed. But someone
Yes.
had a service dog, and they were other kids in the classrooms, because just like with the drive-by pets, the people that the people who are around the student who needs a service dog can be very detrimental, or they can be very helpful. Because I've also heard of some very good stories, but the bad ones are the ones that you absolutely don't want to be a part of. So if you're someone like me who has bad luck, you're usually going to be in this other category. But so students would set off their ringtones to the mosquito app, and the teacher could not hear it, but the dog could. And the dog began to associate going to school with hearing that tone that was not pleasant. So eventually the dog absolutely just refused to go to school, and it ruined the dog.
Wow.
Which is something I tried,
That's
because again, I know that app's no longer in use now, but things are always being, one upped and replaced. So I'm sure there's something very similar to it out there now. But I try to warn people whenever it comes to taking this to a dog to a young school, middle school and high school, because it'd be very, very unusual for an elementary school, I believe, but I know that it does happen depending on, the needs of the individual. But it's things like that that I'm like, are you willing to risk it with your service dog? Is does the risk outweigh the potentials for things like that? Because again, the teacher had no clue, because they could not hear it. They literally could not hear it. That's what it was designed for. It was so that, like, say your child had their phone, and they're communicating with their friends, you would never know they got a text, because you could
Right.
not hear it. That was what it was designed for.
I'm
And
so behind the times. I did not get a smartphone until 8 years ago.
I did not until about the same time, and that was basically because I was driving to and from work at night a lot. I think I got it after I got hit by a drunk driver on my way home from work one morning. I got hit by a drunk driver 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning, 52. I was 1 mile away from my exit to get off, and I had no phone. So I had to just kind of wait for the State Farm, highway patrol, looking for an accident kind of deal to come by. Unfortunately, I had State Farm at the time. I was like, stop. Yeah. And because the guy hit me at over 100 miles an hour. I just happened to look in the rearview mirror. You get that little tap on the shoulder, and you look, and you're like, our truck's driving off of it. Shit, he's gonna hit me. So I just slammed the gas down, and that the cop said that was the only reason why I survived. Because I bounced off instead of getting pushed. Because I had already started to accelerate so much. But so that's about whenever I got my first cell phone tow. Oh, but anyway, so that's something I like to try to be like, it really is one of those things that you want the dog to be solid, in my opinion, as a lay person, before you start taking the dog. And here's something with the 504, you would be able to, as a trainer and someone who's gone through this, they're not actually required to allow you to train your dog at school, are they?
Nope, not at all. And being in
that
school
would also put into when you would actually start taking your dog to school.
Yeah, being dog in training that's under state law. So many states do not allow training.
And see, a lot of people, they misread the state of North Carolina's law, where they're like, oh, they just say they see it says it grants access, but they miss the part while in the process of training. So it's not as long as you've got it labeled and with the tag and everything like that, you're good to go. Well, no, are you actively training? Because and you hear everybody say, well, your dog's always training every time you leave the house. That's not what the law's purpose was. So I try to tell people, you go to Walmart to shop, dog stays home. You go to Walmart to train, you take your dog. That's pretty much what the law's intent is, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
You are correct. For my interpretation of the law as a layperson, not a lawyer.
I try to do my best with, speaking with DAs over the years about various things and other disability advocates. And that's what I've yet to be told differently, regardless of the legal experts that I have spoken with over the years. So that would be, also the whole, don't drag your 8-week-old puppy to Walmart kind of deal, because are you actively training your 8-week-old puppy right now? Actually, it's not even potty trained at this point. So again, the law kind of, cuts you out from your legs out from under you for that as well. And a dog's bladder isn't even fully formed and matured until about 6 months of age.
Correct.
So
that bladder sphincter.
just because your dog hasn't had a mistake at home is not the same as being potty trained. Because a lot of times, I don't think people understand, your dog may be able to tell you that, hey, I need to go pee at home, but out in public, they're like, okay, this is not the same.
There's no door for me to do a little scratch at.
Yeah. And we don't usually think about training something different. Now, whenever I was first starting to do it with Alexandra, I did start taking her, because she's bell trained. So I would put a bell like on my power chair whenever I'd be in the chair, or on my rollator or something like that. So there would be a bell. It wasn't 100%, and times where I did not have either one. Again, where's my bell? I can't tell you I need to pee. Well, we're in Lowe's, but and again, that's why you stay in the pet friendly areas and you keep your cleanup kit, your paper towels and your sprays and all that kind of good stuff. And
that happened to me one time. I was like, are you kidding?
It happened twice with Alexandra.
That was a fully trained dog. I was like, my fault. It
happened once with General, and it was one of those that we were actually trying to get to the exit. So you could tell that he had tried to wait, but because bless his heart, there was one time where I did not realize that he needed to go, and he was holding it so much that he shook. His whole body was shaking. You take him outside to go potty, and then he was good. And unfortunately, I had another trainer try to say that he shut down. No, did you not just watch the fact that he had to go take a crap? And then after he took a crap, he stopped shaking. he was working so hard, like I can't pop a squat in here.
Not every trainer can read behavior. There's a lot of inexperienced trainers out
And
there
even
that
even those
cannot
who are
read behavior.
considered experienced, sometimes they may be able to read their own dogs that they actively see a lot, but they don't read dogs that they don't train themselves.
You know, I have
I'm trying to be
that.
nice.
I have a friend that's a behaviorist and a very she's a very good trainer and very good training company. I couldn't recommend her enough, actually, but that's where I send my dogs. And when I have questions about dynamics within my own house, which was bringing an adult into the house, I wanted to make sure I actually recorded this and had her watch this to give me feedback, just to make sure that she was seeing, the things that I was seeing and everything was okay. So, you can get kennel blind over your own dogs too.
Mhm.
And even if you are capable, and even if you have your own company and you've been doing this for years, then get somebody else's opinion. Get somebody else's opinion. Get out their eyes on there.
I like to even refer to it like, if your car has an accident, your insurance wants you to get free mechanics opinions. Why should our service dogs be any different? We need more than one opinion. We may not go with three, whether it be to, looking for the right trainer. It'd be nice to get, interview three. But again, we become blind to our dog's behavior. So it is nice to get that extra set of eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, are all dog trainers appropriate to train a service dog? I know the
No,
answer to this, but
no. All dogs are all dogs. All trainers are not um appropriate to train a service dog. So your big box stores generally are your starter trainers. They have people. They have a very short mandated list of procedures that they have to follow, and they have to use just this piece of equipment, and they are not really trained in problem solving or working the dog in front of them. You want to have a trainer who can actively work the dog that is in front of them. You may have 15 dogs, and those 15 dogs may all need little different little bits of different aspects of those trainings. So you want to stay away from big box stores. Please stay away from big box store training. And you're going to want to look for, if you cannot find somebody, and even as a service dog, you're not going to want to go with somebody who only advertises themselves as a service dog trainer, because honestly, that's a red flag. Because it's non-regulated. So you're, somebody who does multiple things, somebody who does sports, and you're also going to want somebody who uses their own dogs as demo dogs. So they should be able to model what they're showing you with their own dogs. And you should be able to look at that behavior, look at how they're training, look at how their dog's acting, and see if that is an appropriate trainer. But as far as sports dogs, sports trainers are really good. What am I trying to say here? They're a good avenue. Avenue's not the word I'm looking for, but that word won't come to mind. Nice spry, bro. My brain doesn't work now. But
a potential to get
yeah,
started.
potential. There we go. Thank you. And also, honestly, somebody who does trains bite work. They train bite work. Let me tell you, they're training those dogs to a really high level of training. That is an extreme advance. You don't want them to teach a dog to bite, of course, but they have that skill and that backing behind them, that they're obviously training the dog in front of them, because that's a very complete, intense training of that dog. You in saying that, You also want to make sure that the only dogs that they work with aren't German Shepherds or their Mals, or you don't want the Malinois on the German Shepherds. They have to be able to work on the softer side of dogs too, to make sure that they're not going to have any problem with a poodle or a collie. So a softer dog.
Because the training is a little bit different with those breeds.
Yes, yeah, very much so. Yeah, and I can my personal experience with collies. There, honestly, all the dogs that are considered Fab Fours are a soft breed. Are some more forgiving than others? Yeah, some are more forgiving than others, but of mistakes. But you want to make sure that you have a trainer that is not gonna try to choke your dog out when you guys are working together. They're not gonna be able to handle it. They will shut down, and that is highly abusive.
Yes. Are there any other red flags that you would have people look for?
If they say that, one of the things that they do is they train like this, they do the CGC and their evaluators. And of course and not just the CGC, can they do the CGCA and the U as well? But also, are they trying to cut corners? Are they allowing, I know one person that was very proudly showing that their dog had passed the CGC and they had health halter on, which is a no. So you want to make sure that they're using the proper equipment for what they're saying that they're training. So that is a red flag. There are honestly so many red flags that can be mentioned.
One that comes to mind simply because I admin so many pages, and I know that you do as well. People who try to sneak in and advertise how cheap they are to train for service dog work. To me, that's a red flag. If the reason that they're advertising is not that they're wanting to, just say, hey, I'm a dog trainer, but no, I'm a cheap dog trainer. To me, that's like the Wish version of your dog trainer.
You don't really want to trust somebody with your dog that's bottom dollar is that
The
that's
Dollar
just
Tree trainer.
yeah, you don't want the Dollar Tree trainer. Leave the Dollar Tree at Dollar Tree. You want to and we had talked about this earlier that, personally in my county, that there was somebody who was advertising that they could do a basic training, advanced training, and service dog training in 6 weeks. So, there are some horror stories. There are a lot of horror stories out there.
Yes.
You really need,
Especially in this community.
yes, you have got to, and trust. You need to trust people who have been in your shoes. Trust people with finished dogs that have had finished dogs, that have had more than one finished dogs, that have gone. They're not just going to bring their dog out to their local Dollar Tree, once a week, but they are well done. They've gone on planes, they've gone on vacations, and their dogs have been solid throughout all this. Trust them that
And
if
they've
they're
been
telling
able to
you that
actually
there's some
have a
flats.
good long working life, not this is my 4th service dog in 3 years.
Yeah, you don't want that. You definitely don't want that. But trust the people that are telling you that even if you don't want to hear it, and you're not going to want to hear it, because you are not going to want to hear that you're doing something that's probably not in the best interest of your dog, yourself, as a team. It's not. People aren't doing it to be mean. That comes across in different ways, in different people and different temperaments. But again, we're not saying this to be mean. People are not being mean. We just want you to have the best chance of success.
Not all judgment is negative, is something that I think that it's been lost on our generations recently. Yeah. Sometimes you need judgment so that you can correct whatever may be not in the best interest of the team.
Yes.
And I actually try to tell younger handlers, whether it be age or in experience, that they need to find someone, just like you just said, someone who's more experienced that can maybe take them under their wing. And because if everyone that that you're listening to has the same amount of experience as you do, you're in an echo chamber and you're not going to really progress and grow as a handler. And sadly, I see that a lot. Even whenever, I was in my 30s before I got my first service dog. I needed to be around people who have had service dogs longer than I had, even at 30 some odd years old. So I'm not saying this to try to be bad mouthing younger people, because again, it's not just young in age, but young in experience. I did not have that experience for several years. It's taken me a while, and I'm on my second service dog and I'm still learning. And but a lot of times you'll see people who stay in that one little group of people who are, oh, your service dog is 18 months old. Well, mine's 22 months old. Let's hang out. We both have the same experience, and that's good. Because you want your friends and stuff like that, but you also need that mentorship, I believe, so
Yes.
that you can again progress to the next level, mentally and in experience. Because if you never have anybody who has more experience to help you with those things, so like working your way through figuring out how to take those vacations without stressing your dog out, or even be like, okay, well, my dog is starting to have issues when we go to Walmart. Well, one friend may be like, oh no, your dog's fine. Your dog's fine. Dogs aren't robots, which they're not. But that should never be a mantra to excuse everything. Instead, I believe someone like you would say, well, if they're having an issue at Walmart, let's stop going to Walmart right now and figure out what the issue is. Then we'll start back.
Exactly. You got to work your way back up. And what exactly at Walmart is problematic? Is it just one store? Is it multiple stores? There's so many dynamics at Walmart.
Yeah. Is it the food smells? Does your dog have issues with food right now? Well, maybe we don't need to be in grocery stores right now. Or is it the lighting? Maybe we need to desensitize about the lighting some more. So, that's just something that I personally have seen in my limited years, that because I've only been in the service dog community with General for about 5 years now. And he is retiring early due to pets and stuff like that, multiple dog attacks. But so I'm on my second one, and again, I'm still learning. And whenever it came time for her to learn certain things, I had to acknowledge I don't know how to teach this. And so I reached out to a trainer that's on the page, and she helped me through those things. But if I had been like, oh no, this is my second dog, I know what I'm doing.
You know everything.
I know
No one knows everything.
Yes.
There's always room for growth.
Yes. So, it really is something that all of us need to be aware of, where we are in this journey and in this lifestyle, and acknowledge that sometimes we need help. Just like you said that, you've been in this game for quite a while, and even you have reached out to your friend who is a behaviorist for certain things. So none of us should feel like we know too much and that we have enough experience to be able to bypass that.
Yes, that is a good point. That is very good.
Well, this was great. I thank you for sharing your knowledge about the 504s and talking about your experience as a trainer with going forward with the various parts of training and everything. So I hope to be able to chat with you again sometime, whether it be on or off camera.
That would be fantastic.
All right. So that is it for this show, that Service Dog Show. Make sure you like, subscribe, share to your friends. If you have any comments, please leave them down below or email them to thatservicedogshow@yahoo.com. And if you have any suggestions for potential shows in the future, go ahead and shout them out, and I will do my best to accommodate. and find the correct individuals to bring on for those topics. So again, that Service Dog Show. Thank you very much. And I will see you in about 2 weeks.